Welcome to the Clean Bee Podcast. I'm your host, Madeline. Life is messy, but it shouldn't be toxic. Whether that's chemicals, relationships, habits, or old ways of thinking, the Clean Bee Podcast is here to help you cut through the noise and release what is no longer serving you. Let's dive in, beautiful. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Clean Bee Podcast. I'm your host, Madeline. I am honored to have you here with me today. If you're an OG, welcome on back, guys. If you are new here, welcome. In this show, we discuss all of the things that can really elevate your life and help you live a more vibrant day to day. So whether that's moving through toxic chemicals and products in your home, or elevating your morning routine, or working through mindset and sort of motivation tactics, we really cover it all. And I'm so excited to share this episode with you guys today. This conversation that I had with Melissa was so much fun. She is someone that I genuinely look up to so much, and I really respect her and also adore her energy. So for those of you who don't know, Melissa is local here in the Cayman Islands, and she is the owner of a beautiful yoga and apothecary studio that opened up earlier this year called One Heart, which if you haven't checked it out and you are local, highly recommend. And in this conversation, we really discuss what brought Melissa to yoga, how she discovered it, and what was the catalyst for her then deciding to become a teacher and then eventually open up her own beautiful studio here in the Cayman Islands. She really opens up and tells us a lot about her background and her history and how yoga really came to her when she was in a low point in her life. And as far as a common thread in these conversations that we have here on the show, that is one thing that I've always noticed is that people tend to find the thing that lights them up the most when they're in their darkest hour. And so I really just want to share that and kind of reiterate it for you, the listener, because if you're going through something difficult right now, just remind yourself that on the other side is growth. And if you can just be present, which is a lot of what we talk about in this episode, and you can work through it and be with your body and your emotions, you can experience epic growth and a beautiful transformation on the other side. I know for me personally, I'm kind of going through some things right now, and every time I get a little bit of a feeling of like overwhelm or I'm getting down on myself about something, I just remind myself that I'm going to let my trials be my testimony. And that's like my little mantra. I'm going to let my trials be my testimony. So I'm gifting that to you. You are more than welcome to use it, of course. And I hope that you find value in it as well. So that's kind of a theme, a little bit of what we talk about. Melissa also shares 3 beautiful tools and practices that you can use to really incorporate the yoga lifestyle into your day-to-day, because we do get into it a bit in the conversation. But for me personally, yoga was something that I felt very disconnected to for many years. I thought it was something that just like rich older moms did, or you had to have expensive leggings to go to yoga. And I shared a bit in the episode, so I don't want to give it away fully, but basically yoga came back to me in a very similar way when I needed it most as well. And that's when I sort of cracked open, so to speak, to the fact that yoga is, yes, a physical movement, but it's so much more than that. It's a lifestyle. And Melissa is so passionate about that and the holistic approach of living a yoga-aligned lifestyle on and off the mat. We also dive into a little bit about releasing and surrendering and letting go, especially when it comes to moving on from relationships. So for any of you clean bees that are maybe going through a breakup or are experiencing something in that realm, I think you'll really find value in this conversation. There's also a little bit of the episode that feels very much like a meditative practice. Melissa has a very earthy and grounding energy, which is just so beautiful. She has a lot of Virgo in her chart, which totally comes across in her very grounded and beautiful energy. So I definitely recommend listening to the whole thing through. Before we dive into today's episode, I do want to start with something a little bit different and share a review with you guys. So, as you know, if you're an OG listener, I pretty much say every single week that I would love and appreciate it if you would leave a review. So, I thought it might be kind of fun to share one of those reviews with you all today. So this was left by Squanchy11, and this person is writing in from Canada. I don't know who you are, but I love and appreciate you for taking the time to write this beautiful review. So they said, good vibrations, and rated 5 stars, saying, I just listened to the 5 Ways to Raise Your Vibration podcast, and I love these suggestions. I definitely wouldn't have thought of food as a strategy in this way, and I really appreciate this perspective. Also, I love your laugh, Madeline. Thank you for your voice, your gift, and your love. Oh, literally, like, well, thank you for liking my laugh. I'm sure I would love your laugh as well, and I so appreciate you for being so kind to leave this review. So, if you haven't left a review, guys, please go and do so if you feel called to. It really makes my day and also really helps get the show to more listeners. And if you would really love to show your support and appreciation for the show, I have left a virtual tip jar, which is now available. I will put it in the show notes. It is a link to a PayPal account, and that would just be a way for you to monetarily support the show. Everything is, of course, self-funded at this point, but I am really, really looking to call in 2022 some partnerships and some brand sponsors and really any kind of revenue to help support this show and its growth so that I can continue to evolve and make it better and better for you guys. So, of course, it's by literal no means necessary, but if you feel called and inspired to send a little virtual tip and support the show, it would genuinely mean the world. All right, Clean Bee fam, you know the drill. Take what resonates with you today and leave what doesn't. I truly hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you on the other side. Lots of love. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am so excited to dive into this conversation. I would love to go ahead and start off, Melissa, with a little bit of an icebreaker question. And I would love to know if you can share with the listeners what makes you feel inspired and like your best self.
Thank you so much, Maddie. It's very easy. For me, what makes me feel inspired and my best self would be getting a good night's sleep, getting a solid 8 hours. And then everything else is like the best day ever. You can't have a bad day when you've slept for 8 solid hours.
That is amazing.
Like you're going to show up, you're going to teach the best yoga classes, you're going to be on point with all of your things. Yeah, it's just you won't need coffee, you're just going to feel amazing, and that will just radiate through the rest of your day.
Oh, incredible. I totally agree with that. I feel like I'm definitely speaking from experience as someone who has not had enough sleep many times in my life and how, yeah, I get hangry mostly. I crave like tons of sugar and carbs anytime I'm tired. Yeah, I think that's a great way to set it up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into like more spiritual inspiration, I'm sure, throughout this thing, but everything starts with a good night's sleep for me,
Yes,
anyway.
amen.
Yes.
Awesome. So I would love to dive in. I know we've connected a bit offline, which is such an honor and has been such a blessing. And I would love for you to share with the listeners a little bit about your story. So we've connected, just for the listeners that don't know, we're both here in Cayman. You have opened up an incredibly gorgeously beautiful, amazing, welcoming studio, yoga studio here called One Heart. And I would just love for you to, describe to the listeners your story and how you discovered yoga and what it means to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for the kind words about One Heart. That really means so much to me and everybody who's part of the studio and the project. So thank you very much. My yoga journey, I think there is this quote, and I'm going to probably butcher it, but it's along the lines of, before you're born, your soul knows exactly what your purpose is. And the moment you're born, you forget it all. And you're meant to spend your entire life trying to remember what your purpose is in this lifetime. So for me, my yoga journey started at crowning, I guess. And I came out into the world as a firecracker. My mom said I was born at the break of dawn. My middle name's actually Dawn because of that. I was always a big personality. My aunt actually just passed away last week, and I was just sent a note she had written to me. My cousins had found, and it was, big personality, shining your light. You've always been able to love and accept and all that kind of stuff. But being that person, um, wasn't always acceptable in the box, especially, schools. And, I was told at a very young age, well, my mother was told at a very young age that I had ADHD. And, um, so I had lots of energy. I would speak out of turn. I would, be the class clown, all that kind of stuff. And the doctors had suggested at that point, I mean, we're, in the 80s here, early 80s, that I should be on Ritalin, that they wanted to put me on Ritalin. And my mother, bless her, did all this research and was like, absolutely not. I'm not changing who my daughter is. Now, this is not to say that I will judge any parent who made the other decision, because we are all doing the best that we can. But for me, I feel I'm grateful for that, because it didn't. She allowed me to be who I was. And my family has always allowed me to be. My parents have been truly amazing in giving me the grace to be the wild child. I lived with my grandmother. She was with us till I was 14, so she lived with us. She was a psychic medium. And so I was just allowed to be this kooky person, right? So when I said I saw people, or this person had a message for me, or whatever, it was okay, like, let's talk about it, and it wasn't like, don't say that out loud, it was nurtured. I was allowed that stuff to be nurtured. Um, my grandmother passed away when I was 14 years old. My aunt, who passed away last week, she was an addict. Unfortunately, she struggled with addiction her whole life. And when I was 14, my grandmother had passed away. I was obviously so upset because we were so close. And my aunt gave me an Ativan, and it made all the pain go away. It made me feel amazing, and I wanted more of it. And I went to the doctor, and of course, oh, your grandmother's passed away. Here you go. Here's 87 of them, and probably for about a year and a half, I would say that I was reliant on them, numbing the pain, numbing the healing, the growth. And that was like an unintentional pause in my life. And eventually, my father was just like, you know what? You're not doing this anymore. This is stupid. Like, you need to get your act together. Right. And later on in life, my dad has told me that, he was afraid he was going to lose me too. And I didn't think I was going to cry on this podcast. But anyway, so at
Mm.
16, here I am, not taking these prescription drugs, which were prescribed to me by the doctors, but something that wasn't in alignment with who I was, or who I was meant to be. So I found myself on a yoga mat. And it was through not just yoga asana, but all the other limbs of yoga, the philosophy, the finding your truth, the stepping into your light, the stepping into your purpose, the, finding out what your dharma is. I just couldn't get enough of it. And so at 18, instead of going to college, because that's not something that would work for me, I took my first yoga teacher training. And dabbled with that stuff for a bit, and then moved into entrepreneurship after that. And for 17 years, I was in real estate. In the last 10 years, I was a partner in a real estate firm in Toronto, flying back and forth initially from Cayman to Toronto. And then COVID happened, and everything just worked out so well for me that it was like I was meant to do this, to open up one heart. And so that's where the concept came from. And that's where I was just moved by the universe to come here and be here and do this. And I know that. And throughout my entire life, yoga has always been a place that saved me many times over, not just as a 16-year-old,
Mm.
grieving teenager, but also, after I had, my first child postpartum, and, trying to get on to, like, trying to understand my body, and and it allowed me to be fit and physical throughout a long period of my life. And then now stepping into sort of that change, that life change, like my body has changed again. And despite, all the salads and all the asana and running. And so it's taught me acceptance as well. So it's true. It's not a destination. You're never going to arrive at yoga. You're never going to arrive knowing, oh, yes, I did it. It's constantly a journey. It's constantly like just accepting and moving and knowing that the universe supports you, and has your back, and that,
Mm.
everything that's meant to happen to you happens to you so that you can be where you're supposed to be. So here I am,
Mm.
here, so happy, blissfully happy. I'm so grateful for the response we've had here in Cayman, and also creating a safe space where women who have had children, who, may have struggled with, weight, maybe 40 years old, and, their metabolism is like, nope, not happening anymore, that they can come into this space and they can practice yoga asana and feel good, and know that they're welcome, and know that we are here to support them in their journey, and there's no judgment. And so a lot of that is the fact that we do have, um, all different kinds of teachers, but, me living in a, thick body allows other people to feel good about living in a thicker body and doing yoga, right? And knowing that health isn't necessarily um, equated to fitness.
Mm. Yeah, it's not one size fits all. Wow. I just want to take a moment to soak all of that in that you shared with us. That was beautiful. Thank you for just opening up and having your heart chakra so open to even
Thank
be able
you.
to share vulnerably is
Well, you're making it very easy for me by creating a space where I feel safe as well. So
mm.
thank you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Something that I've noticed that's a common thread with all the conversations that I've had with people on the podcast is there's always some sort of trial or turbulation or something that kind of shakes us in our core. And for you, it was originally this experience with sort of numbing yourself. And then your dad kind of stepping in and helping you come to the realization that, you weren't living in alignment, which is just such a beautiful story in and of itself. And also just want to send condolences and love for your aunt who is now journeyed to the other side. I definitely know she's proud of you, and obviously with that beautiful note that your family discovered. I just think it's beautiful that you shared that, and I find it so fascinating that so many people's stories, they have this experience and then that leads them to their healing. And then from there it's a practice and a journey, like you said, like you never fully arrive. I would love to know who first introduced you to yoga. Was it someone in particular or you just found it like organically? I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. It was a counselor type, like a spiritual counselor that I was going to, and they had mentioned that I should practice yoga. And at that point, there was no YouTube for yoga. There was very few yoga studios. I mean, and there was definitely no yoga studios that had teen classes and stuff like that. And so I ended up buying Rodney Yee videos. the like DVDs, like the old, and that's where I first started. It's it's about so much more than, you know, doing push-ups, you know, and it's about loving kindness um, and then when you move into teaching, it's about igniting those things in people too. Because when people arrive on their mats for all different reasons, a lot, I would say some, not everybody, but some come because they want to longer, leaner, fitter type thing. But there's so many people that come in looking to find something inside of themselves. And we're just here as teachers to maybe prompt them into that, maybe ask the right questions, maybe theme the practice around like letting go or releasing, or talking through about the meridians and the body and where we hold on to emotions based on that stuff. And then making them kind of get into their body and think about, why does my hip hurt so much? And just helping unload that stuff so that they can walk off the mat lighter and take that into life with them.
Yeah, I think it's the beautiful part of being a teacher is that you're the conduit almost for their healing, but also you're learning from them, and it's just like this beautiful symbiotic relationship of like forever the student and forever the teacher. Like all of us have something to share. And yeah. So I would love to touch on a little bit more about, you kind of mentioned the body image and just the fact that people of all sizes, all backgrounds, and every walk of life are accepted and welcome into your studio, which you can feel that. And I find that so beautiful. And as someone who, I know I've shared with you a little bit, but it's, I'm someone that I didn't do yoga for many years because I didn't feel like, for some reason I didn't feel welcome. I don't know why. I don't know. I think I thought it was only where I grew up. It seemed like it was something that like the rich moms of the neighborhood did, which is like my own internal issue with, my own money story and associating something and thinking I need to have expensive leggings to go to yoga. But then, as I've journeyed and experienced through life, I'm very grateful that when yoga was reintroduced to me, it was in the most beautiful setting in the Virgin Islands with a teacher named Katie. And she had a very similar aura to you, like just very light, very open, very beautiful, and just pure. And that was what really opened me up to this more spiritual side of the practice and how it extends off of the mat, like you touched on. But I think for a lot of people, they can feel left out for similar reasons. They think that they don't look a certain way, so they're not welcome, or maybe they think they're not strong enough, or whatever the internal dialogue is, which we all have our own variation. Um, I think that's something that can make people feel excluded when yoga is actually meant for everyone. So I would love for you to expand on that a bit more. I know that's something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, for many reasons. One, I mean, I'm a stepmother and a mother, and we have 6 children. So throughout my adult life, my body has changed a lot, and I feel like a lot of things have given yoga a bad, you know, like not I don't want to say bad because I hate that word, but misconception, right? You do feel it is intimidating. I mean, if you are it doesn't matter if it's a yoga studio, gym, if you are living in a bigger body, or if you've never practiced before or lifted weights before or done anything, like it can be overwhelming. It can be very, you can feel very vulnerable walking into a studio. So we'll stick with yoga. So if you've never practiced yoga before, if you're living in a body that you perceive as not a body that is reflective of yoga or one that is meant for yoga, if you're not long and lean and all that, it can be very intimidating walking into a yoga studio. And it is our priority. It is our mission. It is our It is our vibe. Like, you are welcome here. You are celebrated. You are meant to be here. And we make sure people know that as soon as they walk through the door, because I know how, even as someone who's practiced yoga for, 22 plus years, it's like, it's still, even when I came on island, it was intimidating walking to studios, right? And it's, and I mean it, and yes, it's your own thing. It's definitely something that we need to let go of. But um, if someone is warm to me, I'm going to feel that warmth and I'm going to feel welcome.
No, I love that, and I feel so aligned with you in that mission because even part of the goal with Clean Bee page and now the podcast was wanting to create a space where people felt like health and wellness was accessible for them and just sharing information that, anybody could kind of tap into at any time because not just yoga. I know exactly what you mean of, not wanting to say the word bad, but like health and wellness in general kind of has this sort of air of pretentiousness, or it doesn't have to, almost like toxic positivity. It's like toxic wellness, and it feels exclusive, and it should never be exclusive. It should be inclusive. And I feel like what you do, and that's why you've been so well received, is because you come from such a place of love and welcome, and the intention is there. And I just think it's so profound and incredible what you've done, even in such a short time on the island. Physically, you've been here a long time, but with the studio, I mean, it's just amazing.
It's our 1 month anniversary today.
Oh, happy
I
1
know.
month.
Thank you. Yes, it was funny because we opened on a full moon, and our
Yes.
1 month anniversary is on a full moon. So we're just like, we're so happy. Thank you. Yes,
Yes,
so
serendipitous.
grateful. Yeah, and then here I am on the podcast with you, 1 month in to this journey, and it's also a full moon. Like, everything's lovely. The
It
universe
really
just keeps
is.
saying yes, yes, yes. You are on the right path. So yes.
Which that's totally what it does, right? When we're in flow, and that's just, I feel like, our confirmation that we are. And I guess in that notion, or in that theme, I would love for you to share what I would say, let's say three tips or practices that for someone listening at home that maybe is has not practiced yoga before, or maybe they feel like they would be in the beginner category, how could they incorporate this deeper connection to their body and to themselves, and also to source, universe, God, whatever word is comfortable for whoever's listening. But I feel like that's just such a big part of what it is that you practice. Is it's not just what you do on the mat, it's extending beyond that. So perhaps expand and share a little bit more on that. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe three tips that it can be anything of how someone can live a more aligned and yoga inspired life.
The first thing I guess I would say is sit with yourself. Like, roll out a yoga mat, a blanket, a towel, whatever, lay down, connect to the earth, the floor, scan your body, like be in corpse pose, shavasana pose, and scan your body from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes and sit with your body. Where does it hurt? Does it hurt? Is your body talking to you? Is your body saying something? I mean, I've read the quote so many times that, if you don't listen, if you don't hear your body whisper, you'll have to hear it scream. So just getting into your body, and letting go, deep breathing. I think like 90% of people don't breathe properly, right? And I'm making that quote up, or that statistic up. I actually don't know what it is, but I'm going to say,
I'm willing to bet it's that high.
yeah. How often do you just go,
Mm,
how often do we take time just to breathe?
mm.
And it's as simple as when you're laying in that corpse pose or sitting cross legged, if that's comfortable for you, inhaling, you're receiving, exhaling, you're letting go, you're releasing. Just being with the breath. When you're with the breath, you are with that which is breathing you.
Mm.
So, whatever it is that you call that, you are with that. And if you don't believe in that, just believe in the magic that is breathing you. The fact that the body breathes itself, sitting with the breath, sitting with the body. And then the last one would be, this one's going to be a hard one. The first two are easy, but the third one would be becoming self aware. Okay. We have this evil ego, this evil roommate in our head. I call it, just because I read The Untethered Soul. So I'm like, it is an evil roommate. It's terrible. That protects us. Our ego's job is to protect us. When you think about even how difficult it is to apologize for something you did wrong,
Mm.
even thinking how you're like, shit, I don't want to do that, right? Because you don't want to admit that you're wrong. It's human nature to want to be right all the time, to know all the things, to be all the things. And our ego pushes us towards that. So when you are like, okay, I screwed that up, like I can do better, I want to do better. Not only do I apologize, but I'm going to endeavor not to do that again. My father he's a mentor to me, and we had been out somewhere together, and we were at this thing, and people were gossiping. All this gossip was going on at these two people, and I couldn't believe it. I was like shocked at all the gossip. And we got in the car to go home, and I said, Dad, I cannot believe like all the stuff they were telling us. I mean, we shouldn't have been told that. I felt like it wasn't my business. My dad just looked at me and said, Melissa, when you see something in someone that you don't like, make sure you never do it. How easy is it to fall into gossiping? But when you have other people do it, you're like, oh, I don't like this. This is making me feel uncomfortable. So stopping yourself from doing the things that you don't like in others, allowing yourself to, and people are mirrors to us. I had somebody in here who has been neglecting her self-care for so long. And she's in the health and wellness industry. And every day she says to people, self care, you need to take time for you. You deserve an hour a week. You deserve an hour a month. Self care, you've got to put yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't do all this stuff. And the whole time, it was herself, subconscious mind telling her that.
Mm.
Her subconscious mind wanted her to hear it so badly that she was saying it excessively to other people. She was even in an industry that forced her to say that every day.
Mm.
That's how much the universe looks after you if you just listen. And you can only listen when you're quiet, right?
Yes, I love that you shared even the that, like coming back to that which I am, and just like sitting in the stillness so that you can tune in almost. And because I think we're in like very much it's just a noisy world. There's so much going on, and every day, we're inundated with something else, and there's like this fear-based news which is on 24/7, and there's a new thing that we're supposed to be outraged about every 5 minutes. Like, our nervous system was not made to handle all of this. And I think that's something I personally really had to reckon with last year, in the middle of lockdown in 2020, when everything happened with George Floyd and all of the events that transpired after that. I felt like I was spinning on this hamster wheel trying to like share and like be a part of something to like make the world better, and just like exhausting myself almost, and realizing that the way that I can truly be of service is actually quieting the noise, like coming back to myself, raising my vibration, and then doing my best to help ripple that outwards and like lift up other people when they need help. And just like others have lifted me up, and just like this little wave that happens when you actually listen and like tune into what the universe is trying to tell you.
And you're absolutely doing that. You are doing exactly what you wanted to do, exactly what you know, were probably divinely downloaded, you know, to do.
Mm.
And I see the following that you have. I don't like the word following, but I don't know. I'm not good with technology, so please forgive me if I'm using the wrong verbiage with the social media and whatnot. But you know, you have people, like, you are shining your light and people are finding you. Your sober efforts, you know, especially on an island like Cayman where, you know, alcohol is like church. Like it's just, you know, you have inspired people. You have inspired people to be healthy. You know, your book club, you're shining your light and people
Oh,
are basking in your rays. So
oh my God.
congratulations on that. Mhm.
That is incredibly kind. Thank you so much
It's
for that.
honest.
Like,
It's honest.
feel little tears welling up. Especially coming from you. I really look up to you and
Oh,
just
bless you.
admire everything that you've done and everything that you've created and brought into this world. And it's just, it's so beautiful. And it truly means
Thank
so much
you.
to connect with you on that.
Of course, absolutely.
So you mentioned Untethered Soul,
Mhm.
which I love that book and read it back in 2017, I think was when it found me. And you mentioned that that was a big part of your spiritual awakening and sort of your coming home to oneself. So I would love for you to maybe touch on that and if you feel called to share maybe some other books that have served you in your journey that you think the listener might benefit from pursuing.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I've read so many books. And I actually, before I opened the business, I read a book a week. I just, I
Wow.
know. And so when you were doing book club, I was like, that's so awesome. That's so cool. No, I love books. The Untethered Soul for me, I think it's a good way to teach people how to release emotions, you know, and like you said, there is a lot of emotions going on right now in the world, and we're also conditioned to move away from uncomfortable emotions, right? If you're
Mhm.
angry, you're not ever supposed to get angry, especially as a female. You're not supposed to get angry.
Mm.
You're not supposed to be frustrated. You're not supposed to be mad. If you cry, you're sad and you cry. You're weak. You know. So we have this thing of moving away from emotions, and we've labeled emotions as good and bad, and they really just are. We are human,
Mm.
so we're going to be angry, and that's okay. And we're going to be sad, and that's okay. You can't be blissful all the time. It's impossible because you are having a human experience. And if you've carried that, you've got that suitcase, and even me, you know, I would never, even my yoga teachers, even my spiritual mentors, all the people, everyone's got their suitcase of stuff that
Mhm.
they've picked up and put in their bag along the way, right? And it's easy to just pick it up and put it in, and you know, and then all of a sudden we're, you know, 40 years old and our suitcase is like ridiculously full and we're dragging it around with us. You know, and that suitcase is full of triggers, it's full of trauma, it's
Mm.
full of all the things. And so taking it out a piece at a time is painful and just exhausting, but necessary. So, and I believe that when we experience emotions that we move away from because of, I can't feel angry right now, I'm in public. I can't, you know, cry because people are watching me, or whatever it is that you feel, that the reason why you can't do it, it gets hidden inside of our bodies and it stays there, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're 35 years old and your hip is sore, right? And like, so and that's why, again, yin is my favorite practice to teach and to do, because it's just so fascinating how it works. But my point is, you've got to let it go. You've got to put the things down. And everyone thinks letting go is this dramatic thing. It's got to be letting go has to be like a lightning bolt, or a big, big energetic change, push, shift. Um, Letting go is as simple as just releasing your grasp on something,
Yeah.
just releasing your grasp. That's it. Doesn't have to be some sort of,
To do.
huge event. Yes, it's just letting it go. And so with the untethered soul, just that exercise of breathing and allowing that to come and then to go, right? Allowing those emotions to come and then releasing them. So you feel them in the moment, but you let them go. You don't bury them inside of you. So that book for me, I felt was, and also it's just a way of, and I feel like the older I become and the more children I collect along the way, and my husband's an angel too. I mean, I'm really blessed. Like he's my mirror a lot of the time too. um, but you are able to see people for who they are and where they're at without judgment, and knowing it's not our place to judge.
I love that the letting go doesn't need to be some big thing. I think that's really helpful because I think the same could be even said for like closure or, whatever it is. And also not letting the emotions, I think, like define you and just knowing like what you just said, reflecting back to you of we're having this human experience. And so we're going to experience like these range of emotions. And like one of my favorite Alan Watts quotes like ever that came to me in 2013 when I was having this like terrible time and I discovered Alan Watts on YouTube. And he's probably rolling over in his grave that's where I found him. But I am grateful to the beautiful humans that took the time to put his work into audio format and upload them to YouTube because one of his lessons that has stuck with me to this day is regard your thoughts as clouds. And anytime I'm like feeling like, oh, I don't like, it feels like sticky almost. Like I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel frustrated or whatever it is that we're feeling. I just, it's taken years and it's still a practice. Of course, I'm definitely not perfect at this, but I've gotten a lot better at just allowing to feel it. And like you said, just kind of breathe through it. And just, I know that it's not me, it's not defining me. And I just imagine it being like a little cloud, just like floating through my head. And I'm like, goodbye. You can keep going.
Yes, it's that same like what comes comes, what goes goes. And I'd love to just make a point about closure. You mentioned that people also believe that closure needs to be this big thing. You see that a lot with breakups. People with relationships that come to an end. Oh, I need to have a conversation with him or her because I need closure. I need to, if someone doesn't want to be with you, that's closure, right? And you deserve to be with someone who wants to be with you. And also with breakups, if you are with somebody who doesn't see you for all of those things, then you are not creating space to call somebody in who'll honor you for all of those things.
Mm.
So closure's not necessary, I guess.
That is so true and so important. And it's funny, the thing that came up in my head, I don't know if you ever watched it, but the comedian Dane Cook.
Yes.
So I have no idea what he's up to these days, but back in his like heyday when I was in like high school, I think he had like this tour that he went on, and I think I had one of the DVDs, and he had this joke about like how like a girlfriend, she's like, well, I can't break up with him, my CDs are in his car. And it's like this this like feeling where it's like there's still more to be done, this closure thing hasn't happened. And I think what you said is just so, oh, like I just want to repeat that, like if someone doesn't want to be with you or isn't treating you or the relationship isn't serving your highest self and your highest good, then that is closure in and of
Hmm.
itself.
And you've got to create space, right? You've got to
Oh,
let go of things to create space for better things. And that's all yoga is. You're just creating space where there wasn't space before, right? Whether it's reaching a little bit further in your extended side angle pose, or, reaching further down in your forward fold, or just releasing other things in your life that aren't serving you, so that you can call in, so you have space. I mean, if you are in a relationship that's not serving you, then you don't have space for someone that's going to serve you, serve your higher purpose, or light you on fire, let you be who you're going to be, let you grow into who you're going to grow into, someone who's going to nurture that, someone's going to water your grass, and cheer you on along the way.
what would you say for someone listening right now and they're feeling like this conversation has sparked something inside of them and they know exactly the thing that they need to let go of? Because I think we always do. Like we always do know. And like you touched on the whole sober September and sober October, which was for the listeners that don't know, that was just like a little community challenge that was hosted, just encouraging people to get intentional and curious about their drinking habits. And for me personally, I knew, and I'm not going to say like, first of all, there's never judgment. Second of all, like, I know I'll have a glass of wine again one day. I just knew for this extended period of time, which I'm not even sure how long it's necessarily going to go. I just knew I was like, I got to let this go for a while to like become the person that I want to be. So for the people that are at home listening and they're like, oh, I know what it is. I know what I need to let go of. What would be, I guess, some tools or what guidance can you share on how someone can like get the ball rolling with releasing something?
So I think that you just said exactly what you are. um, I'm just going to reflect this back to you. You wanted to let go of drinking. It was time for you to stop drinking. And you created a community that also wanted to stop drinking. And you supported each other
Mm,
through that journey. So if you
mm.
want to let go of something, get your tribe together, get your group, get your people, get your resources, get someone that's going to hold you accountable if it's something like addiction. And addiction is something that, and it has touched my family and myself briefly, but my family in such a way. If it is addiction, you need support.
Mhm.
So do that. And I'm not necessarily saying that all the people that are, sober October are,
Yeah.
addicted. It's just they need to, they want to honor their bodies this way. So find something that's going to do that. If you want to release something, if you want to create space for something, find something that honors your path to fill in that time.
Creating space.
You create space, whether it's, for example, people go home and have a glass of wine every night, and sit there and read a book or watch TV or something. Well, instead of doing that, what else are you going to do? You're going to remove that from your life. So now you've got to fill that space, create a new routine, create something new, and yeah, there's lots of growth, so much.
Mm, that
Yes.
is so true. It's so incredibly important to have the community aspect. I could not agree with that more. It is all about your tribe because the whole sober September thing was sparked just because at that point I had stopped drinking. It had been maybe I think 3 months and I was feeling like it had transpired like a lot of conversations in my life and I was like, well, like there's a lot more people that are curious about trying to either just reduce or stop drinking for a period of time or whatever. And a lot of the people that reached out and asked were they expressed interest of like, how are you doing it? Like, I want to do it. I want to give it a try. Like how, like, you've made it look easy, which like everybody's journey is their own, right? There's no like easy, like everybody has their own demons and battles and things that they're meant to kind of confront. But the thing that I've told everybody is like, get your crew on board. Like when I made the decision, I was like, I'm turning 30 this year. like we're finishing up my Saturn return. Like I want this next decade to be like up leveled times 10. I want to feel more connected to myself and source. And I was like, this is what I got to do. I told all my family, all my friends, and I was like, hey guys, like I still want to hang out. So like, please don't forget about me. But I'm just going to be drinking kombucha instead or a virgin mojito. Like, is that cool? And literally, and this is a reflection, I think, of just how grateful I am for my friends. Everybody was supportive. And I think that that is like the secret sauce of anything. And I just feel so blessed for that. And so for anyone listening, like, yeah, Melissa's spot on. Like get your tribe, like you said, get them on board.
Get your support system. And I really feel like I hate, and I'm going to use the word hate because I literally hate it. I don't hate a lot of things. When you are sober, when you're like, because I'll take my time where I'm not drinking. Like I do that because I need to for myself, for my body, for my health, for my wellness, for my connection to spirit, etc. But when you go out to social settings and they're like, oh, can I get you a glass of wine? Can I get you, and you're like, no, no, thank you. I'll just have a soda. Well, why? Why aren't you drinking? And it's like, I don't need to tell you why I'm not drinking. And that should not even be a question. It's just as bad as, people who get married and they've been married for 2 years. Oh, when are you having kids? Like, it's like none of your business. And that could be a triggering question.
It's I think, or at least this is totally obviously my opinion, but I feel like the reason that these things kind of come up in regards to drinking is that because by saying no, it's almost like forcing someone else to be confronted with maybe a decision that they didn't want to think about. And it's like we're almost like, this is just my experience and like because I've been on that side as well, where I've been the one that is asking someone like, "Oh, hey, do you want a glass of wine?" And I definitely would have never like bullied, or I would just be like, "Oh, okay," if someone told me they weren't drinking, but it does trigger something in your head of like, "Oh, well maybe I shouldn't be." Because I think we all inherently know that it disconnects us from ourselves in many ways, or maybe we're not using it in a way that's serving us. Um, but we don't necessarily want to think about that. And so it
No, we don't want to think because that's a hard thing, right?
yeah.
That's admitting that you're doing something wrong. And it is hard to admit that you're doing something wrong.
Oh my God, you just brought it
That is
back
that
full
self
circle.
Yeah, that is just self-awareness, self-inventory. And whenever you have feelings that pop up in your body, like, triggers and stuff, it's like, okay, what is this trying to tell me right now? Right? What am I supposed to learn from this right now? What part of me where's my lesson here? Like where's the next step, because it's true. You got to reflect a lot. The best way to learn is through mistakes.
So true. I love that you brought that totally full circle and just like yeah, like in leaving space for reflection as well. I think we just, which again comes back to that, those three sort of pillars that you said of like the stillness, the breath, and the self awareness being like some of the biggest tools to transform transform anyone's life.
It's for
Um,
sure. And giving people the grace to be who they are, right? And not living in judgment.
yeah. Um, well, on that note, I would love for you to share with the listeners where they can connect with you. So, where can they be inspired more by Melissa, connect with your work, and talk further if they feel called to?
Oh, bless. Thank you. My Instagram is at the Cayman Yogi. That's about it. I mean, like I said, I'm married with 6 kids and run a business. So that's my extent of social media.
I love it. You definitely have enough on your plate.
Yes, but always open to chat with anybody. And if anyone feels inspired, if anyone has any questions, I am here to be of service, and I'm here for you. whatever if I can help in any way, I absolutely will. And if you feel called to contact me for anything, I'm happy to be of service.
That's that Virgo earth energy in you. I just love it. Can feel it. It's like so welcoming and
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you, honey.
I will be sure to include a link to your Instagram handle and also to One Heart for all of our local clean bees so they can connect with you if they haven't already heard of your studio. They're maybe living under a rock, but we will make sure that they're able to find you and come to one of your healing classes there. And
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Maddie, for this opportunity. Thank you so much, honey. Blessings your way,
you as
always.
well. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you, honey.
Bye.